Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses as we continue with Part 12, The Practice of Meditation from the Phoenix by Manly P. Hall. The practice of meditation. The world is a valley deep and mysterious wherein men live together amid ever-deepening shadows. The light of a superior reason gilds the distant peaks, but its rays cannot pierce the impenetrable gloom in the vale below. A few of stronger vision gaze upward and behold the glow that is reflected from the sky-tossed summits. The many, however, like those who dwelt in Plato's symbolic cave, have no realization of the vistas of light beyond the precipitous cliffs above and around them. Living thus under the shadow of intellectual limitation, each must of necessity remain patient until by the natural unfoldment of superphysical faculties, his intolerable lot is revealed to him. With the dawn of intelligence, therefore, we turn, first with ingenuity and afterwards with reason, to the glorious task of liberating our true selves from the abysmal depths of physical perspective. The real history of mankind is the record of a magnificent struggle for enlightenment. A struggle, however, whose significance is seldom sensed. Man has climbed from unfathomable depths, from the very slime and ooze of chaos, impelled by an incomprehensible but irresistible urge. He has raised himself from state to state, from place to place, from world to world, until at last a few in the vanguard of the great procession can now glimpse upon the heights, as yet unsealed flashes of that light which they have quested from the beginning. Though all humanity is responsive to a single longing, only a few are able to define the impulse which has relentlessly propelled them through these vistas of time and space. For the rest, the Stygian darkness is still impenetrable. What is the real substance of that confusion which today obsesses mankind, which circumscribes all human efforts, so that we live together in a discord of cross-purposes? Is not this confusion in reality the surgings of a divine will in bondage to a chaotic state? The irrational quest for reality, the exertion of undirected forces to the achievement of an undefined end? In this little span of years which in their ignorance men have misnamed life, realities are hopelessly obscured. False concepts have fashioned false codes, and these in turn have precipitated humanity into a whirlpool of fallacies. Each may try conscientiously to live the life which he has come to believe is in harmony with truth. Blunted, however, by the sophistry of a perverted cultural system, human faculties, no longer able to serve as an instrument for the accumulation of knowledge, have become the hapless purveyors of false notions. Living thus in a phantasmagoria of conceits, a black Sabbath of irrationality and excess, we lose all perspective and become the victim of the most insidious hallucinations. We regard misery as inevitable, discord as a divine edict, and confusion the dominant note of the world. Swept on inexorably through the various phases of temporal existence, the unenlightened are drawn irresistibly into the seething maelstrom of annihilation through ephemerality. Like some strange moth-like phantom of a dream, Dantesque, souls circle fascinated about the angry red flame of desire. Their wings singed by the flame, one by one they perish. 3 flames blaze at the core of material existence, and it is their lurid light, rendered flickering by the passing winds of chance, which cause the fantastic shadows of desire upon the far walls of space. The false flame of egoism, the false flame of possession, the false flame of desire. These 3 must die out, or rather be snuffed out, by enlightened reason before the human soul can escape from the labyrinthine sphere of its uncertainties. As the great Buddha so wisely taught, nirvana is the dying out of the 3 fires of the eye, the realization that there is no permanence of reality in creation, but that creation, together with all its moods and modes, is itself circumscribed by an absolute and indefinable existence, which of all things alone is real. In every life, there must come that supreme moment when, for the first time, the soul recognizes its kinship with the greatness which lies beyond material conception. The moment of this realization is actually the moment of birth. Previous to this state, there is only an animal existence, but the true self comes into being, conjured up by that realization, which recognizes the necessity for that self. In every age, a few awake from the troubled sleep of materiality, and by awakening, discover mortality with all its attendant consequences to be but the figment of a dream. It is impossible to live well without a rational perspective on life. Life, therefore, seems hopeless and purposeless to the great body of humanity. True knowledge must be that knowledge by which we come to know the reason for the circumstances which make up our mortal span. Realization is the supreme intellectual faculty, for by realization we come to know of the existence of reality, but only through a still superior discipline, which the mystics have come to designate meditation. Can one identify himself with those realities which heretofore he has only mentally recognized and accepted? Metaphysical philosophy divides all mankind into three orders. The first and lowest, those who do not know and cannot see. Second, those who know a little and see a little, but have very limited understanding. Third, that small group of enlightened ones who, knowing and seeing, have identified themselves in consciousness with that which they have known and seen. Only the latter are truly wise, and in them the law is perfected. Lords of enlightened love. Meditation, then, is the power to become identical with or to mingle one's consciousness with the object meditated upon. It is the rational annihilation of the objects and attributes of the transitory sphere through the internal statement of universal values, or more correctly, the contemplation of those values. It is the realization of our identity with the transcendental realities of existence. It is escape from the limitations of material perspective by a power which confers a knowing with acceptance through positive intuition. It is the conjuring up of the mood of limitlessness. Through meditation, the not-self is temporarily mingled with the infinite, to find in this mingling the true substance of all aspiration. It is the identification of the soul with consciousness in absolute suspension. Meditation dispels the clouds which obscure the purpose of life, even as the clear rays of the sun dissipate the mist. Through it is achieved the restatement of purpose, the reconsecration of action, and the rededication of soul to the will of the cosmic self. At the climax of meditation, there is the supreme moment when the unthinkable is thought, when the unknowable is known, when eternity is circumscribed with an all-sufficient mood. Meditation should never be regarded as an escape from the responsibilities of physical life. Such a viewpoint outrages the integrity of the divine plan, for evasion can never be interpreted as accomplishment. Nor should meditation or other occult exercises be permitted to interfere in any way with those duties and relationships which constitute man's karmic inheritances and accumulations. There's also the line distinction that, while meditation does release consciousness from immanent limitations, it is not intended to liberate the soul from the evolutionary cycles. If properly performed, it may bring about such a general improvement that the soul may be released into a higher cycle of being. Occultism teaches that the only permanent escape from any undesirable state is to lift oneself therefrom by the strength of positive achievement. The true purpose of meditation is to supply, through broadened realization, the impetus to fuller and greater effort. Brought into contact with higher and more perfect aspects of universal truth, man is moved like Plotinus to seek a permanent union with this newly discovered sublimity. To those who live in this material veil, oppressed by the circumstances of physical life, the responsibilities and problems of the day are often extremely heavy. This is especially true of those who have begun to sense the note of impermanence characteristic of our diversified activities. The dreamers and thinkers of the world are of a race apart, and for the most part, a lonely and misunderstood people whose interest and vision separate them from the petty concerns with which the masses busy themselves. The effort to remain true to principle in the face of the organized opposition of society is not a little discouraging, and could the wise not retire into another world utterly beyond the reach of the profane, their state would be a sorry one indeed. Most of the intervals of life are intervals of understanding, and those who have understood, even in small measure, the purpose of the universal plan must dwell apart from the rest in a universe of their own to gain their support and courage from the contemplation of ideals. They have learned what the body of the race must discover with heavy cost, namely that ideals are the only realities. Meditation is a temporary release from the considerations of matter, and its practice enables the mystics of the world to escape for a little time the weight of misunderstanding and persecution. From this escape results a new strength and a fuller determination to conquer through understanding environmental unrealities. In contemplation of reality, The goal of meditation, then, is to find in the depths of space that strength and fortitude which the physical world cannot bestow, to sense for a moment that infinite benevolence which is so completely obscured by finite malevolence. Eternity is more gentle than time, and in the vastness of infinite vistas, all things find their place when denied expression in the realm of shadows, strengthened by contact with that perfection which supports all things and which will ultimately tincture all imperfection with its own nature. The mystic returns once more to the dimensional state to gather up with renewed courage and insight the scattered elements of his corporeal existence. As our bodies must be fed to preserve bodily strength, so must the few who would become wise feed the beauty and ideality within themselves, and by the enrichment of these divine faculties sustain more successfully the burdens of the illusional state. Who then is qualified to perform that meditation, which is the attunement of the part with the whole, the merging of the lesser self into the greater self? What is the mystery surrounding those who have discovered the technique of dissolving the ego in the ocean of eternity, so that it becomes utterly diffused throughout that sea and feels every wave and ripple as part of itself? He who has discovered the mystery of meditation is qualified to perform it. He who finds in truth the supreme goal of existence is qualified to be possessed by truth. For no man can possess truth. He who, turning from petty purpose to the achievement of great purpose, beholds the full virtue of that purpose, such a one is entitled to realize his ideal. True meditation is impossible, save for those who are qualified. For the rest, it is inconceivable that a man should find peace in the forgetfulness of self. The intellectuals who have deified, though, can conceive of no higher force than mind. They have not learned the meaning of the Oriental adage that the mind is the slayer of the real. Only those, therefore, who have earned through ages of labor and longing the right to know may discover what Nagarjuna so poetically terms the other shore of life. Those who ask what is the practice of meditation and how is it performed forget that the inconceivable can never be reduced to words or even captured within the cage of the mind. That which eternity itself can scarcely contain shall never be caught within the nature of the unillumined thinker. Of the very substance of meditation, nothing can, therefore, be written. But about it and about some few words may be said. We will suppose that though you are a valley dweller, living your physical life in the shadow of matter, yet with the penetrating faculty of realization, you have come to know of that larger world which lies beyond the encircling hills. You have learned that somewhere, yes, everywhere, a divine radiance is diffusing itself, a radiance which from its very nature is the substance and perfection of all things. While bound by body with its impulses and instincts to the humidity of the inferior sphere, you may yet yearn for a fuller consciousness. With this mood strong upon you and enriched with reason, the alchemical gold of thought, you make the effort to retire a little while into the subjective and eternal state, there to seek that peace which surpasseth all mortal understanding. As you begin to meditate upon the beauty, nobility, and profundity of that eternal existence, which is greater than all of the little distorted fragments we call life, as your soul conjures up the realization of these things, as you strive to know the very substance of the peace which stretches out beyond the stars, a miracle occurs, at least it seems miraculous. When we think great thoughts, when we live in great ideals, little things disappear and petty issues are forgotten. Our minds and souls are filled with the glory of the whole. The walls of life's narrow valley retire, the world grows vaster and more magnificent, and all its parts are toned with a new nobility. You find that your very mood has picked you up and brought you on rapport with the universal mood. As selfishness and the narrowing concepts which bind the masses to their wheel of pain are erased from your awareness, forgotten in the thrill of truth, you become a citizen of a new world. You are one with universal vistas. Your soul thrills as though touched by the vibration of a celestial harmony, and through every part of yourself you feel that same pulsing which radiates from the unnumbered stars of heaven. The little planet which men call Earth grows smaller and smaller beneath you until it ceases to be even a speck in chaos. All the things which once seemed so great to the physical perceptions become as inconsiderable as the fading sphere itself. Life is newly found. All relationships are readjusted by the greater vision and the broader view. Those small concerns which in our ignorance we have given false emphasis, now revealed in their true proportions, dominate us no more. Still upward and onward, lifted high upon the wings of our meditation, We ascend beyond the stars, farther and farther, until even the flickering lights of the heavens utterly vanish in the immensity of being. Nothing remains but eternity itself. There is neither coming nor going, neither now nor then, neither me nor thee, only endlessness extending endlessly. And in the midst of all this wonder is the tiny bubble of human consciousness, thrilling amid the infinitudes of duration, its thin walls ready to shatter in the inconceivable vastness. All concepts and conceptions alike are gone. Things are a forgotten dream. There is nothing but you and space, and you are reeling with space, swirled even beyond ecstasy. Then perchance, if it is permissible to descend to symbolism, and thus attempt to describe that which is in its very nature indescribable, you may perceive faintly, so very faintly, the almost indistinguishable outline of that vast power which reposes forever upon the serpent couch of space, enthroned upon the very fastnesses of infinity. There you shall perceive the unborn and undying Lord seated above the whole mystery of the worlds, and supporting by the slender thread of his contemplation the vast pageantry of existence. The little atom which is you thrills into the very presence of the unaging one, as you gaze upward into that great face, immovable throughout all time, the expressionless face which changes not but is ever inscrutable, lifeless and deathless. The last vestige of self is swept away. You are utterly lost in your contemplation. You cease, but the contemplation goes on. Then for a moment, at the very climax of meditation, there may come to those who have mastered the mystery of the law, that inconceivable instant, that moment that lasts forever, that forever which is only a moment. You cease, you melt into the very being of the eternal meditator. You are identical with the dreaming Lord of the world. His eyes are your eyes, his parts and members are your parts and members, his meditation is your meditation, and apart from him, you have no existence. In this instant of identity, you are the world. Time and space are within you. Eternity is captured, circumscribed, as it were, by the awareness of your meditation. You are all that is, that was, or ever shall be. Your realization is perfect. Your being is no longer an atom dancing in the midst of the world. Now the world is an atom dancing in the midst of you. You are the very Lord whose sleeping is creation. You are also this Lord when he awakes, and by this very act dissolves that creation which is but an infinite dream. When this dreamer, which is now you, and this you, which is now the dreamer, shall awaken from this last sleep, even being and not being cease. The very circumstances of your own accomplishment are but the phantoms of a sleep, and beyond even the vast circles of meditation lies an immensity that neither is nor is not. In meditation, one does not think these things, one knows them, and by the very nature of the discipline is capable of an internal comprehension of that which is known. The substance of this discovery cannot be communicated, and every effort to capture it in terms of mortal sense perception produces but a distorted and meaningless shadow that in no way reveals the actuality. How inadequate must all efforts be to describe that victorious moment when the substance of all things and the ultimate of all endeavor are realized. Nor can it even be intimated, but those who find it have learned what it is, and those who have not found it cannot understand. Then comes the test of high purpose and true integrity, for from this luminous sufficiency we must return again into the narrow bondage of the flesh. It is difficult to come back to material oppression, to descend from that condition of attunement with the all, and be cramped into the small estate of some terrestrial creature clinging desperately to the moist body of the earth, to return from the infinite to the finite, from the broad sweep of universal light to the dull routine of mortal existence, is like pouring the very stars of heaven into a yogi's water vessel. We have grown too large for our small body, and with a sickening sensation, we try to fit our new perspective into the mortal coil. But this is in reality the mystery of the incarnation of the universal spirit into matter. The will reasserts itself, purpose is defined, and like a plummet, the soul plunges downward through the rings of the world, and we find ourselves once more in our own mortal humdrum world, a street corner in chaos, surrounded by that endless confusion by which life's struggle for existence is depicted. Yet although we have fallen again into the mortal state, and the hills have enclosed once more our narrow valley, some of the grandeur of the vision survives. We can never be quite what we were before, where meditation has lifted the soul up into the very presence of dimensionless truth. That soul can never descend quite so low again in the scale of matter. But through all the ages, unborn must preserve somewhere in its fabric, in part at least, the substance of that glorious extension. Thus, meditation brings into our material existence the substance of a new courage and a higher purpose, and in this it accomplishes inconceivable good. Doubts are gone, contradictions are cleared away, enriched with the supreme realization that the ultimate destiny of each is to become all. Life flows inevitably into the infinite. We know that in the end the imperfect parts will be mingled in a common perfection, and lifted above all disaster by this knowledge, we march triumphantly down the ages to that great day when our union with reality will be perfect and eternal. At the end of a cycle of human labor, there comes what philosophers call the great day. It is also referred to as the last day. It is a day that dawns with all the glow of the sunrise, but it has no night. It is the day that comes but never goes, for upon that day we are mingled in the realization of our Maker and thus perfected. In this perfect identity with the sovereign cause, the long ages of our wanderings are over. All paths end, and immovable in truth, we have returned to our Father's house to go no more out. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.